however you enter here, however this kind of manifests itself in your training, you can do it that way, right? So for me, it can be, and what I mean, it could be a shin to shin. You could do it the black mamba way. The idea is I'm going to force half guard from a seated position, right? What happens after is probably going to be determined on how good you are with your lockdown double unders, but the goal is to force half guard, right? And that can happen many ways. For me, the shin to shin is probably the easiest way, right? I already got half of what I wanted. I could potentially go single-legged X. I can get his hands on the mat and maybe get to my single-legged X. That's definitely an option. Maybe that's actually my first option. I don't know, right? Or if it didn't happen, right? Maybe I tried and he was able to kind of keep his leg bent where I wasn't able to shoot to his hip. I'm able to force that mini stomp, right? And again, I'm like trying to swing on the inside, right? I'm like, there's definitely a pull with my hand. I'm not grabbing with my fingers. I'm like looking at my watch per se, right? I'm like hooking almost like with my wrist. And I'm flaring with my leg. Ideally, something probably was blocking this leg, right? Just, if I just did like this wouldn't make sense. I'm trying to off balance him, right? So essentially my hand would be here. If this would have failed, that swing, you see that little swing, right? Kind of like a deep half swing. That little swing turns into a mini stomp. See how my heel starts to chop under on top of that heel? And then at the same time, I'm almost gonna be like dragging him low just to kind of like keep my hand on top of the knee. Right? So my knees don't stay like this once I trap that heel, right? And I'll do it a little bit faster, you can kind of see how it is, but I did it again, and this is all with good discipline. My feet are pointing to the inside. I'm leaning forward, I'm hand fighting first, right? I get to my shin to shin. Be careful, obviously, of rolling kimuras. All right, so maybe we're going inside pull first. Look at this, boom, look at the swing. I catch, and then I'm looking to get my hand on top of that knee. All right, this is the motion here. And my elbow should be pinched nice and tight to my side. My right hand that was essentially blocking the top of his leg now becomes an underhook here. Right, and ideally, again, we're looking to force half guard. This knee has to go past my hips to get the knee to touch this mat, right? And that's gonna happen through the extension of my legs, right? I'm pinching nice and tight here, right? And with my left hand, I'm gonna be pushing essentially with my forearm. So I'm pushing, I still have that knee pinch. I tend to keep my left arm on the inside, and I'm gonna lift my elbow, bring my knees to my chest as I turn to the inside, boom. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and cross my ankle. And then we'll talk about this in a little bit. We need to figure out how to really use a lockdown to our advantage, right? But right now, ankles crossed, pinching my knees, just like this, right? I'm gonna make this advanced class like a fundamentals class. Connecting to that shin to shin, right? I can do it this way. Maybe this guy's a little aggressive and I'm playing it this way. Now maybe I do more of a black mamba. I'm just, whoop. All right, so they call it an S turn. I'm like looking to hit this little turn. Boom, same exact move. Just getting my right foot over that heel, catching that knee on my belly. I'm essentially kind of flat on my back right here, looking to force that knee pass. All right, some people do this. All right, it should be like this. Boom, boom. I'm already reaching. Just making sure that when I adjust, whoop, now my shoulder's nice and low. Now I got it really tight around his waist. Does that make sense? Let's play around with that for a little bit. If you know the sweep, knee tap, whatever you want to finish, that will become our live game towards the end. Let's go. Ready, 1, 2. So, I'm gonna do the black mamba, would be a little bit different, right? Shooting, actually we just go shin to shin, keep it easy, right? I go shin to shin just for, conversation. It shouldn't be squared necessarily, like for somebody who has somewhat, like choose the hip, probably be a good idea. I know people tend to do this. That's like creative. I mess around with that, but if like you're just squared all the time, like this won't do you much good either, right? So like we should be like choosing a hip when we're sitting up and playing this type of guard, right? We're trying to be offensive with our sit-up guard. Anything when we're doing like this, more like trying to be defensive, right? So I should be somewhat facing my partner, right? So when I do this connection, you kind of want your toes to point. If you're trying to catch that heel, point your toes to the outside. Or people are doing this, like this. And that wouldn't make sense, right? So I'm looking to hook. And so that as I hook with my foot, there's like a slight little back heel. Like I'm bringing my heels to my chest. Again, I'm looking to get like my wrist past the back of his knee. Maybe I'm using like an inside pull, right? So I'm not getting rolling Kimura. I'm leaning. It failed. Boom. Boom. Right? I extend. I get his knee past my hips. I'm using my left forearm, the pinch of my knees, my right arm, bringing my knees to my chest. Get to the inside. Look at my footwork. Boom. There it is. Got my lockdown. Got double unders. Here we go. Right? And so just to kind of like add some realism to what we're doing here, right? Depending on how good you are, this even for me feels weak, right? I can definitely get my left arm deeper. I can definitely get my hips closer to this knee. Right now, there's a lot of space. Andy starts moving. Generally, they start, go back a little bit. Generally, they'll start sprawling this way. Yeah, right? See how his hips kind of got away from me here? And if I stay with my palms up, like this with my right hand, and he keeps kicking his leg back, I lose that leg. So that sucks. It happens all the time. On top of that, people lay on their side, and then they open up their knees like this. And then when you're not paying attention, a quick little pop, boop, and the knee gets through. This is just bad discipline, right? I get my lockdown. Generally, like people like do like triangle with their leg. They do this, and they scoop the ankle like this. This is weak. That's weak, right? I want my ankles crossed, and generally, I tend to like, keep it short right by the outside of his knee. And as I kind of like cross my ankles, I'm just pointing my toes to the outside. I'm pinching my knees and I'm back heeling. That's all I'm doing. This is my lockdown. And what I like to do is I take my left foot and I'll put it flat on the mat, right? And now when Andy starts to move, right, I generally will plant my left foot on the mat and I scoop my hip up, like my right knee pointing towards the ceiling, and I get my hip just a little bit more under him. I reset by going flat on my back. Oh, you saw that movement? Andy's going to give me that same reaction again. Whoop. I'm going to take my foot, scoop my hips under him again, and I'm just pointing my knees flat on the mat. Look at where I am now. I got fully under his hips without ever having to extend, take his knee at the outside the line of his hips, and now Andy's in trouble. Yeah, it's going to be very hard for Andy to get this back, because as Andy's trying to walk his hand towards me, I'm just pointing my knees to the opposite side. All the way up. I can do the whole sequence. We can do it all the way to the end. Extend. That's somebody's really trying to get in contact with them. Extend. Bump them up. They get all the way. Whoop. Here it is. Watch the footwork. This isn't, generally you see guys just like whipping. It's very subtle. I'm pinching my knees. I'm back heeling. Every time his hips get away from me, I scoot them forward. I hide my face. I'm like working this arm deeper. Whoop. There it is. Whoop. I'm already on him. He didn't even suspect it. He was busy trying to just fight me a little bit there as I was adjusting. Now everything stays the same. Left hand can come in. Right, I can chuck this leg up to my shoulder. Boom. Yeah, pass the leg. Fucking, hey, what that makes sense? Let's play around with it. Ready, 1, 2. And again, maybe this won't apply to the first game, but again, in general, things to think about. Everybody does lockdown. There's hundreds and hundreds of 10th Planet guys. They all probably do lockdown, and I'm sure there's probably hundreds of different little nicks and crannies that they do different to make it work for them, right? Even in this room, I'm sure there's people that play lockdown as much as I do, and they probably have their own things. With that being said, I tend to, focus a lot on where my body is positioned a lot of times, to further enhance my position. So if the idea is to try to get under my partner's hips, I try to do very subtle things to constantly keep that in the focus, right? And a lot of times that implies that bottom foot on that lockdown, right? So a lot of times my foot is not necessarily doing a natural movement of extending the knee or anything like that. It's sometimes just a tool for me to walk my hips closer, right? And if you add the motion of your hands, a lot of times you can really build momentum and really get under guys' hips, right? So It also does something else. We can just get right to it real quick. You get the lockdown real quick. So I get to my lockdown, right again, and we're emphasizing the crossing of the ankles, right? I'm trying not to, I don't even want to go mid-calf. I know sometimes people go mid-calf. I'm legitimately looking to put as much weight as I can, like going downward with my left leg, and I just try to keep my knees, my toes pointed to the outside of the foot. This is essentially what I'm doing with my lockdown. It's very rare you see me extending my lockdown. There are cases that I do that, but really I'm just trying to like stay close to his hips, right? If I want to get under his hips, just subtle scoops, and I lean, right? He gets that little overhook. I want to get a little bit deeper. Look at, I just lean that little left shoulder, and then whoop, I get deeper. Look at, I'm not really, I'm already under it. You see that? Just very subtle. What this does the opposite way is that it makes it easier for me to get the dog fight, because the knee's right there. Very easy for me to climb that. Knee tap, limp on. Right? So the more tighter I am in that bottom half, subtle ways I can get closer to those hips, it's easier for me to bump. Guys this way, easy to bump. Guys that way. Remember? And everything just gets a little bit easier. And it all starts with not getting greedy. I got to lockdown, got my double unders. I'm gonna adjust first. My hips are pretty far. There's a lot of spacing between my legs. My left shoulder's in front of his chest. Bump that, I'm reaching. Look at that overhook. He better get it back, yeah. But now my shoulder's a little bit deeper behind him. Now look, I'm gonna add a little bit of hip action. My shoulder's deeper behind him. Oh man, he's in trouble. This is just easy work. Make sense?